Ola was very uplifting. He gave us a positive message. He kept us very entertained.
He brought out some things that I hadn't thought about before, about change. So it was very inspirational.
What a great message today about change. Something that we all have to embrace. Nice delivery.
I thought today's speech from Ola was wonderful. It was inspiring, and I truly enjoyed it. And I thought that he was an exceptional speaker.
Hola. I'm not saying hello to you, I'm just telling you my name. Thank you, thank you. It's a forget-me-not name. As you can tell from my funny but unique accent, I wasn't born in this part of the world. But I got here as fast as I could. Not knowing where else to go, I came to Texas. And several years later, I'm still fixing to say, hi, y'all. Coming to Texas, and even the United States, was a huge change for me. I was going to my job interview, the very first job interview in America. And I was driving down the road when I got pulled over by a female police officer who walked over to me like John Wayne and said, "Pop your trunk." I said, "Officer, are you trying to insult me? Do I look like an elephant to you? I don't have a trunk." Well, I got some lectures and I got a warning ticket. What she was actually referring to was the boot of my car. I managed to get to my interview in time, and the manager of the store, 7-Eleven, was a lady. And she said, "Fill out the forms, come back to the office." And I was sitting with her. She was asking the questions. I was answering her, "Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am." I noticed that she was feeling a little bit uncomfortable. I didn't know why. It was 90 degrees outside, but it was about 70-something in the office. So I had no reason to believe that something was going wrong, except that at a point she took off her glasses and said, "My name is Angelina, please call me by my first name." And my response was, "You are going to be my supervisor, and moreover, you are older than me." Oops. I didn't know that in America you don't tell a woman she's older than you. From that point, the interview went shh. But we managed to stay on until we signed all the papers, and she said, "Okay, this is where you go for your orientation. When you finish, you come back to the store and begin to work." I was glad to leave when she said, "Oh, we require our associates to wear blue pants." Blue what? Blue pants. And I said, "What has blue pants got to do with me working in this store?" She said, "That's company policy." And I said, "But I just told you this is my very first job in America. I don't have money to start shopping for blue pants now. And by the way, how do you know the color of people's pants? Do they run around your store in their pants? Or what are you talking about?" And she walked closer to me and said, "How about those ones you're wearing?" And I looked down and I realized I had on a pair of navy blue trousers. You see, in my culture, when you start talking about pants, you're actually referring to the underwear garments. Those were the kind of changes I was going through. And I did all these things until I found my way into the United States Navy, even before I knew the real meaning of Navy. Never again volunteer yourself. Do we have some veterans in the house today? Any veteran in the house? Give her a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you for your service. You see, it's always a source of pleasure for me to be a member of that elite group. And for those of you who didn't serve, we thank you too, because without your support, we couldn't have done what we did. Those changes happened to me, and I had to weather the storm. But you see, not very many of us who come here can weather that storm. Some of us actually fall by the wayside. So some experts have been trying to figure out, why is it that people fear change? What is it about change that people do not like? How many of you like change? You see? Not very many people. How many of you believe that we are experiencing more change today than we did 5 or 10 years ago? How many of you can remember the last time you received mail And all the mail that came to you came from only the people you knew. How many of you still think it's going to slow down? No, it's not going to slow down. I love the story of a little girl who went to her mother one night and said, "Mommy, why does Daddy have a lot of work to do every night?" And the mommy thought about it briefly and said, "It's because your daddy couldn't finish all the work in the office, so he brings it home." And the little girl thought about it and said, "I wonder why they didn't put him in a slower group." Change is not going to slow down. In fact, it's going to happen faster. And so, experts were trying to figure out why people fear change. And they carried out this survey, a study, to find out why people fear change and what happens to them after they have experienced a significant change in their lives. They actually assigned points, what we call stress points, to those things. For example, a child leaving home for the first time will cause the parents about 30% stress point. A child moving back to live at home will cause 35 points. Somebody planning a wedding will have about 70%. Somebody planning a divorce will have about 75. Getting a traffic ticket will give you about 10 points. However, planning your Christmas will give you just about 5 points. So they asked people to add all these figures together, and they discovered that statistically, if you have over 300 points, you stand the risk of falling terribly sick within the next 12 months. So you'll be among the 80% of the people that will fall sick. And they were wondering, what happened to the 20%? Why can they go through change without falling sick? Well, I started my own introduction into the field of change, and I discovered some things that I learned when I was just 5 years of age. You see, my village is located on the Atlantic Ocean, just at the bank of the Atlantic Ocean. And because of our proximity to the Atlantic Ocean, we were constantly bombarded every year by heavy storm and rain. When I was just 5, guess what my pastime was? As soon as it started raining, I would race to my father's little farmhouse, climb on something, and watch the trees dance. My mother would come up behind me, scoop me up, and drag me into the house. I would kick and scream, because to me, she was preventing me from watching the dancing trees. But what she was actually doing was protecting me from flying objects. One day, as soon as it stopped raining, my father came in and said, "Let's go to the farm." I jumped for joy. You see, going to the farm with your father at 5 is like going to the Disney World, except that we didn't have to spend a fortune to do it. I tagged along. We were walking into the forest, marshy, swampy ground. Water was dripping on us from overhead branches. The sun was peeking through the branches. And we had just gone about a mile into the forest when we came to a spot where a huge mango tree had been uprooted by the storm, and it crashed to the ground. At the sight of the mango, I raced to the branches, picked up one, and wiped it off my shirt, and began to eat. My father stood there briefly to inspect what was going on. He placed his hunting equipment on the tree trunk. He called me and placed me on the tree trunk, and then he climbed over and picked me up and placed me gently on the other side. He gathered his stuff, and we continued as if nothing had happened. But my inquisitive mind began to work. I turned to my father and I said, "Papa, why is it that each time it rains heavily, some big trees will be uprooted and crash to the ground while smaller trees remain standing?" I said, "Let me tell you about those big trees first. You see those big trees? They have grown so big with deep root in the ground. They can no longer obey the law of the wind. And so when wind comes, the wind will push they will resist. The wind will push again, they will resist. And then the wind will push much harder, and they will crash to the ground. But the smaller trees, I want you to do this with me. Let's go. When the wind goes this way, they go that way. When the wind comes back this way, they go that way. When the wind goes back, they go that way. And when the wind goes away, they remain standing and tall. I said, as if I understood. I was going to put another question to him when he put his own question to me. And the question was, which tree would you rather be? That was my first lesson in change. By now, you probably have a little insight into why the 20% of the people with over 300% did not fall sick, and the other 80% fell sick. Let's do a short exercise here before we go on. I want you to bring out your two hands. Okay? I want you to clasp your hands. See how that feels? Take your hands apart. Now reclasp. This time, if your right thumb was on the left thumb in the first one, I want it to be underneath. Okay, let's go. Ha. Okay, some people. Caroline, how does that feel? Different. Lisa, where are you? Lisa is somewhere there. How does it feel? How does it feel? Oh, she didn't do it. Rhonda, I know I have two Rhondas. Rhonda 1, Rhonda 2. Where are they? Rhonda, how does that feel? Different. Okay, anybody here? How does it feel? Different. Awkward. Why? These are still your hands. I haven't done anything to your hands. Why are they different? Because you are not used to doing it. That's what change brings to you. Change will make you feel different. It will make you feel awkward. It will make you feel strange. And that's why people stress themselves out when it comes to embracing change. A few weeks ago, I got an email from a friend. And in the email were a lot of acronyms. LOL, ROFL, OMG. And I said, okay, I'm a speaker. I can come up with my own acronym too. So I formed what I call SOL. Shout out loud. Okay? Here's what we are going to do. In the next 30 seconds, you are going to turn to the person sitting next to you. This is the question. When you find yourself in that dark hole, a strange place, very uncomfortable for you, and you know you need to make a change, but you don't know what to do. What do you think you need to effectively make that change? Is it positive mental attitude, courage, perseverance? What do you think you need to effectively make that transition from where you are into where you want to be? I'll give you 30 seconds to come up with some answers, and you are going to shout out loud your answer when I point at you. Go ahead. Come on now. Yes, ma'am. Courage. Give her a hand. Anybody else? Shout out loud. Yes? Come on now. Say again. Prayer. Yes. Another one. Positive attitude. Yes. Who else? Say again. Confidence. Great. You are all correct. In fact, given the chance, all of you can deliver my speech here. We all know what to do, but how many of us do what we know? Because in an attempt to embrace change, you have to do things that are uncomfortable to you because they are new. So for the next few minutes, let me play what I call the devil's advocate. We know what to do, but there are certain things that prevent us from doing what we know when we find ourselves in such a situation. And the first thing I want to share with you is what I'm going to recite to you, and somebody is going to give us the answer. So listen carefully. I am your constant companion. I'm your greatest helper or heaviest burden. I will push you onward to success or drag you down to failure. I'm completely at your command. Half of the things you do, you might as well turn over to me, and I will do them quickly and correctly. You must merely be firm with me. Tell me what exactly you want to do, and after a short lesson, I will do them without any problems. I am the servant of all great men and the servant of all failures. Those who are great have made great. Those who are failures have made failures. I'm not a machine, but I work with the full precision of a machine and the intelligence of a man. You may run me for profit or run me for ruin. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will put the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? Say again. You're very close. You're very close. I'm looking for a 5-letter word. Brain, you are very close. Say again. Say it. You're very close. How about habit? Your habit. Some of you have driven to work on the same road year after year, and someday the city of Houston decides, okay, let's expand this road to 4 lanes. And you say you are going to court because your great-grandfather drove that street, your father drove that street. Now you are driving and you don't want anybody to mess with this street. It's your habit. Old habits die hard. Thank you. But if you remember that the only thing that separates the successful people from the failures is the mastery of change. When you master change, you'll be able to override your habit and you will embrace change. Very close to habit is your negative attitude to change. Some of you, when a new employee comes in and says, oh, there's a new idea, you pull your glasses and say, look, I've been here for 45 years. This is what we've always done, and that's what we're going to do. You have a negative attitude towards change, and that will prevent you from embracing change. I was in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Anybody from Mississippi here? None? Okay. I went to do a program. It was a week-long program. About 2 days into the program, a lady came to me. She was a supervisor in a shipbuilding company and said, I think I'm fed up. I want to quit my job. And I said, why would you want to quit your job? You seem to be doing well. She said, I don't like it anymore. I want to quit. And I said, do you get paid? She said, yeah. I said, that should be something you should be happy about your job. She said, you don't get it. And I said, okay, what exactly don't I get? She said, people were giving her problems. And I said, do you get vacation time? Yeah. Do you get paid for your vacation? She said, yes. I said, that's another thing you should like about your job. And she said, no, I'm not taking it. I said, well, I'm sorry, ma'am. I know I have not been around here as much as you have been, but I know that people who don't take the first step, they don't usually take the second step. If you are not willing to take the suggestion I'm giving you, you might as well go back and get fired. She said, me? Get fired? I didn't do anything. I said, yeah, you haven't done anything, but your negative attitude is affecting you, and very soon it's going to spread to other people in the department. She said, what should I do? I said, what I've just told you here, why don't you write them down? When you get home, read those things to yourself. I like my job because I get paid. I like my job because I get vacation. I like my job because I get paid vacation. And if any idea comes to you, add to the list. Every night before you go to bed, read it to yourself. When you go to work, read it to yourself. I'm sure it will help you. Reluctantly, she took my suggestion. 3 months later, I was back, at the same company to work with a different group of supervisors because they had day supervisors and they had night supervisors. Night supervisors, you can't keep them awake during the day. So we were working late into 2 a.m. with these people. My very first day, guess who was sitting right up front, grinning from ear to ear like a monkey eating banana sideways? My friend. And I said, hey, it's so good to see you. How are things going down there? She said, you won't believe how much those people have changed. Oh, yeah? They have not changed. You have changed your attitude about them. Dr. Windaya said, when you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes. When you change your negative attitude, the way you look at change, you begin to see the opportunities that are in the changes that are happening to you, because change is an opportunity for something better to happen. Change is an opportunity for something better to happen. And unless you embrace change, you will not notice that you have those opportunities there, because you keep on drooling over what is going on here. What's keeping you from embracing change? How about procrastination? I'll do it today, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next year. I'll come around to it. If I come to your house now, I'll probably find a lot of boxes in your garage that you've been promising yourself you are going to empty for the past 10 years since you left high school. That letter that is sitting on your desk that you've been thinking of typing out, you have not done it. Procrastination, the thief of our time. A few days ago, I was reading something about Procrastinators Anonymous. It's a group that has been around for quite some time, except that they have never had the time to get around to having a meeting. Procrastination will inhibit you and prevent you from embracing change. Get rid of it. I told you I'm playing the devil's advocate because you know what to do. You just don't get around to doing them. Very close behind that is your belief that yesterday's solution is going to solve today's problem. Anybody here works for United States Postal Services? No, I'm safe. If you watch the news this very morning, come on now. How many of you listen to the news this morning? The United States Congress is trying to find $11 billion to bail out the United States Postal Services. Do you know why? It's because for a long time, USPS believed that yesterday's solution would solve today's problems. And they believed that the trend was going to continue. Imagine yourself, this is your short break, lunch break, you dash to the post office to mail a letter. There are 40 people in line and only one cashier standing there. And when you give him a piece of mail, he'll take it. Yes, may I help you? You are looking at your watch because you have to go back to work. You give them a piece of priority mail, they say 2 to 3 days. Now contrast that with FedEx. You walk into a FedEx store, say, welcome to FedEx, how may we help you? They take your package, within a second you are out of the place and you are on your way back to the office. The belief that yesterday's solution is going to solve today's problem will inhibit you from embracing change, because you can't do today's business with yesterday's methods and hope to be in business tomorrow. Can you imagine a company trying to ship things from Florida to Seattle, Washington, on horseback? When UPS says, you want it there tomorrow, we guarantee it. That company is not going to last. And the same thing with you. If you have that belief that what you used to do is going to be acceptable today, you are in trouble because you don't have room to embrace something new. You don't have room to see the opportunity that is within the change that is going on. And those are very important. For those of you who are leaders, supervisors, companies in the audience, you never want to neglect the opportunity to embrace change. At least appreciate your admin professionals because they are the pulse of your organization. They make your organization look good. They are the first responders. And guess what? Shift happens. Shift happens all the time. Today you are the boss, you are the leader. Tomorrow, that admin professional may be the leader. She may start a company, and now you are a client of that company. How do you want to be treated? I was in Mesa, Arizona last year at a high school, and it turns out that the principal of the school was actually a student of the school a few years back. So the teachers who were giving him grades A, B, C, D now go to him for their paychecks. That's a shift. That's a change. If you are not used to that kind of thing, guess what? You are going to resign and leave. So you want to appreciate the people you work with. Have a sense of gratitude. Sometimes change comes in form of a storm, difficulty, a huge challenge. And you have to find your way out of the difficulty. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said that great lives are attained through seasons of struggle and striving. That was a lesson I learned from one of my clients, Irene. Irene was a very beautiful, brilliant, and even-tempered woman. Everything was going right for her, except that her marriage was on the rocks. One day, her husband of 8 years walked out on her. Irene suffered a nervous breakdown, and she ended up in the emergency room. When I went to see her, she looked 20 years older. After a short prayer, she took my hand and looked up at me with tears streaming down her face and said, "Do you still remember that storm story from your village you told me and my husband a while back?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "I think I'm in the middle of my life storm right now." I didn't know what to say, so I kept quiet. And at that point, her mother began to cry too. Still looking for assurance, she said, "Do you think I can survive this?" And I knew I had to say something to console this woman and her mother. And I said, "You remember there was that silver lining?" She said, "I haven't seen it yet, have you?" A few weeks later, Irene recovered. She moved out of state, changed professions, and actually changed husbands because she has since remarried. A few months later, I was home when I got a letter from Irene. In the letter was my $1,500 check and a gift card to Men's Warehouse. I guarantee it. But you see, those were not the most important content of that letter. The most important content of that letter to me was the words she wrote. She said, "Dear Ola, I have survived the storm. I have seen the silver lining, and it has become my business logo." When storm of life comes to you, there is an opportunity somewhere there. Look for that silver lining because that is your hope for tomorrow. Don't give up fighting. Don't quit. As our president said, don't quit. Because you never know how close you are to that crown. So now that you know that your habit can inhibit you from embracing change. Your negative attitude can inhibit you from embracing change. Procrastination, your belief, and that you should never neglect the opportunity to embrace change. Because in any situation, there is an opportunity. And within that change, there is an opportunity for something better to happen. Embrace change. Our lives are made up of change. All of us hoo-ha when we see a butterfly. Hoo-ha is beautiful. But hardly do we stop to consider what that butterfly has gone through before becoming something that we hoo-ha about. Many of you are sitting there. You are pretty with all the jewelry and all the stuff. But how many of you have actually thought of the change that thing, the gold or the diamond, had to go through before becoming something you adorn yourself with? It went through fire. Fire. And somebody had to beat it to shape. Those are part of what is going on. When you talk of change, you have to go through all these things because those are the things that separate you from the herd of also-rans. Think back of how many people started with you and they are gone because they couldn't stand the change. Let me close with this short story called The Clay Balls. One day, a young man was exploring the caves along the seashore. And he will go into a cave, look around, he will come back out and continue his journey along the beach. At a point, he walked into a cave, and while he was looking around, he saw a canvas bag. And in the bag were clay balls, several of them. It was as if somebody had molded the clay balls, left them in the sun to bake, and put them in the bag, and left the bag in the cave. On his way out, he took the canvas bag with him. And as he was walking along the beach, he would reach into the bag, grab a clay ball, and fling it as far as he could into the ocean. He was doing this for several miles until he accidentally dropped one of the clay balls on a rock. The clay ball split open, and inside of it was a priceless, precious gemstone. He picked it up and said, He reached in, brought another one out, smacked it, and another precious stone. Now he turned the bag upside down, emptied the content, and began to crack them open. Even with his naked amateur eyes, he could see that he was holding in his hands thousands of dollars worth of gemstones. Then it occurred to him that he had been walking that beach for hours and for miles, and he had been flinging the clay balls into the ocean. He tried to remember how many he might have flung into the ocean, but he couldn't because he's been there for quite some time. And he realized that instead of holding millions of dollars worth of gemstones, now he's holding only a few thousands worth. That is what change will do to you. When change comes to you, it will look very ugly, very uncomfortable, very strange, awkward. And unless you take the time and the effort to look inside, to explore what is inside that change, you will not see the gemstone that lies within that ugly situation that you find yourself in. Friends, whatever you find yourself, or whatever situation you find yourself, always remember that change is an opportunity for something better to happen. Thank you. Change is an opportunity for something better to... Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. Because in China, they have a saying, Within an opportunity, there is danger. And within danger, there is an opportunity. And so change will come to you. It will happen faster. It's inevitable. With you, without you, change is going to happen. You might as well embrace it and run with the ball and find the gemstones that are lying right inside the change that you find yourself. God bless you, and may you prosper. Thank you.
Ola was very uplifting. He gave us a positive message. He kept us very entertained, and I think that he left us all with the message that we make a difference and that every opportunity is just around the corner.
I thought it was very uplifting and motivating. He brought out some things that I hadn't thought about before, about change. So it was very inspirational.
I thought today's speech from Ola was wonderful. It was inspiring, and I truly enjoyed it. I've been attending this event for many years, and I thought that he was an exceptional speaker, and I thought it was a great message for everyone to hear.
What a great message today about change. Something that we all have to embrace. Nice delivery. Great job. Feel very encouraged, refreshed to hear Ola's message, and I think it's a message that a lot of people need to hear.
I was mesmerized by the speech because we're undergoing some changes, not only in my personal life, but in my work life as well. So I felt like he was talking to me. The thing that I really took away from it at the end was change is going to happen, whether you embrace it or not. So make it easy on yourself and just go with it.